Hey everyone, it's Kyle from Growing Up Garden. Today I'm going to take you on a personal tour of our 2017 vegetable garden. I've got my two helpers, Lily and Blake, here, and they're going to show you some of their favorite plants to eat in the garden.
And these tomatoes.
If you're new to gardening, this tour will show you how much food you can grow in such a small space.
Come on, Dad, let's go check out the garden.
Okay, let's do it, Lily. Okay, Lily, so what is your favorite thing to eat in the garden? Would you like to show everybody?
It says tomatoes.
So you love cherry tomatoes, right?
Yeah.
So show them how you pick them. Let's see. Yeah, she loves to come out here and just eat. And there's another plant that she loves to eat too. Let's go show them. I think I know where it is. I think it's over inside our little gated area. Let's go show them the other plant that you guys love to eat. You and Blake come out here and forage like you're deer or something. What is this plant?
Basil.
Basil. It's a beautiful basil plant we got from Grandma Carmy. She had it sitting on her windowsill and planted it in the ground, and this thing is doing really good.
Yeah.
It's actually getting really big, and yeah, the kids just love to come out here and eat
Dad,
it straight.
Can I show you something?
Yeah, you want to show everybody something? What are we gonna? Okay, let's go check it out. What is it?
Also, our grapes grow really tall.
Oh, you want to show everybody the grapes that we have growing in our garden? Sure. So here's some grapes that we have growing against our house. I actually have started. And what is it, Lily?
It's a gagutsa.
A kagutsa squash. Yep, we got some beautiful kagutsa squash growing on our house. I'll show you where they're climbing in a minute. Very cool. Is there anything else you want to show the viewers?
I'm going to show you the green beans and the melons.
Oh, Blake wants to show the green beans and the melons. Okay. Let's go check the green beans out. All right, so we've got a row of green beans here.
I think I see ripe tomatoes.
And they're almost ripe. Some big juicy tomatoes there.
There's some over
Blake wants to show everybody the melons we've got growing.
there, right?
Oh my goodness, Blake. How many melons are there? Pretty amazing.
There's just sunflowers.
Okay, so there's a big giant sunflower. Let's check the sunflowers out. Lily, those things are humongous.
Car, Daddy.
I see the car. Those are some humongous sunflowers we've got growing. Let's get a little close up of the sunflower. Not that sun. This sun. All right, so this is the front of my house. So this area to the left, this is the main growing area. And I'll pan over to the right side of my yard. I do have a small garden bed that's actually in the ground. I've got a fig tree over there, and I've got a few other plants in pots that I'll show you guys in a second. So let's head over and see the main garden first. So right here in front, I've got 3 sunflowers. These are the mammoth variety of sunflower, if I'm not mistaken. I've been growing these probably for the last 4 years. Every year I just save the seeds from the previous year and plant them out. And these things are getting pretty big. This sunflower right here in the middle is probably the biggest sunflower I've ever grown. I've never seen such a thick stalked sunflower. Check this thing out. Look at how big this is. Hopefully you can see it on camera. Look at my hand compared to this thing. Here's my arm. It's hard to see for lighting. There we go. Look at that thing. It's like a tree growing in my front yard. It's amazing. So what I'm planning on doing with the sunflowers that come off of this is I'm going to be sprouting them indoors to use in salads. Nice healthy salad. You can grow sunflower sprouts any time of the year, even in the winter time, indoors. So that's what we do with our sunflowers. Below the sunflowers, I've got some edamame soybeans growing. This was an experiment. I actually got these seeds from my mother-in-law. Thank you, April, for getting me these non-GMO seeds. Let's see, I only got looks like three plants that actually took. I planted this whole area, and so these are the only three that made it. But they're pretty loaded with soybeans. They look like they're just about ready to harvest and steam. So we'll be enjoying some nice soybeans. Right in between the sunflowers, I've got sweet banana pepper, which we basically just picked all the banana peppers off of it and made a nice tofu scramble with. So we'll head over here. In the middle, I've got a tomato plant. This variety is not really doing that good. As you can see, I'm probably not going to grow this variety again. It's got a lot of tomatoes, but just don't do that well. Kind of looks sickly, but this is a Biltmore hybrid. Won't be growing that again. Every year I find out what works and what doesn't, so I'm finally weeding out all the plants that don't really do good in my area, and I only plant things that grow well in the garden. So right here, this whole wall is cantaloupe melons growing on a wire fence that I built. You can get all the materials at Home Depot pretty cheaply. The wire fencing. It's not wire fencing, but this is actually for reinforcing concrete. And I make this is what all my tomatoes are growing off of, and it works really good. It's cheap material. I think it's like under 10 bucks for a sheet. It's like a sheet of plywood, and it's supporting my massive melon plants. Leaning a little bit, but still doing the job. Check this out. Hopefully you guys can see that. There's probably a cluster of 5 in there. Probably a total of maybe 20 melons hanging off of this thing. Each one of these plants, it says on the little seed packet, is supposed to produce 10 melons each. So it's a pretty high producing plant. There's multiple. I probably have about maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 plants in there, and they're just taking over the garden. Below the melons, I've got Blue Lake bush beans. We've been really enjoying these bush beans. They're really delicious. Steam them up. Really good tasting green bean to eat. Give it a shot of one. Pretty high yielding. Let's see, I do have asparagus growing in this bed, but the asparagus isn't really doing that good in here. Probably gonna end up just taking it out. I need more space to grow asparagus. When we move to the country, hopefully in the next few years we'll be able to move into the country. The garden is just gonna be insane because I'm planning on getting at least, I like to have at least 5 acres, maybe 10 if I can afford it. And I'm just gonna have the most insane permaculture garden, farm, whatever you want to call it, that you've ever seen. So that's my goal in the next few years, to get out of this small residential home. But in the meantime, we're just going to keep growing here and enjoying our garden. So on this side, I've got my tomato plants. I've got some larger varieties on this side. A lot of my tomatoes this year, towards the front here, they haven't really produced a lot of tomatoes. I think it's the varieties. Certain varieties just don't do that good. This is the only large one that we're really getting. This is a Goliath. Let's see if we can get a shot of it. Goliath hybrid tomato. It's actually a really tasty tomato. I had one yesterday in a sandwich with avocado and lettuce and mustard. Pretty tasty tomatoes. Yep. So let's see, what do we got over here? These are our cherry tomatoes, our little cherry tomato wall for the kids. I always like to put the cherries In the little walkway here, it's actually easy for them to reach. Swing around here so you can see. Hopefully you can see with the sun. Let me get in the shade here. How's that popsicle, Blake? Tastes pretty good? There we go. There's the little cherry tomato wall.
That's from on the ground. Oh.
It's completely loaded with cherries, and we've been picking these, what, every day, honey?
Yep.
She's been picking a couple baskets and giving them away, and we've been eating them like crazy. It's probably the best tomatoes to grow if you want to have high yield. Grow the cherry tomatoes. They just keep producing. They produce way more than the larger varieties, and the plants get insanely huge. There's actually three cherry tomato plants here. Let me back up in the shade so you can see. There we go. So I've got 3 cherries. I've got a Sun Gold hybrid, Super Sweet 100. I've got a grape cherry tomato there, and then around the corner there is it's a Sun Sweet cherry tomato. All right, so this is my pepper section of the garden. I love my sweet peppers. So this year I've got some Ajvarski peppers, which I started from seed here. And you can check that out in some previous episodes. Maybe I'll put some links down below. You can see me starting these seeds, or these peppers from seeds. I've also got some miniature bell peppers that I tried out this year. It's the first year I've grown them, and they are amazing. I'd highly recommend you guys grow some mini bell peppers. This thing puts out tons of beautiful red peppers. And these things are great to chop up and cook with, or you can just eat them raw right off the plant. So definitely grow some mini bells. Now this pepper here, this is a poblano pepper. It's just one of the Bonnie plants from Home Depot. And I like to roast these guys on the fire and maybe put them in some tamales, or vegan tamales, and or just put them in burritos, stuff like that. And these are actually a little bit hot, so you gotta be careful when you eat these things. They can be mild to hot, depending on pepper. These are actually starting to turn red, so they will turn red if you leave them on long enough. You can pick them green. I think most of the ones in the store, or the ones in the store, are actually green. We've got another plant there growing. It's completely loaded with poblanos. Maybe too many. I'm gonna have to pick some of these things. Start harvesting. You know, it's almost August here. Maybe another day and it'll be August. So this is usually the time the peppers start. The pepper plants start pumping out the peppers. And in here I've got my Ajvarski peppers, and these things are delicious, roasted, super sweet, really tasty. You can get this variety, if you guys are interested, you can get this variety from Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. Just look up Ajvarski pepper. This pepper does really well here in my garden. More Ajvarski, as you can see. Just love these peppers. And then I've got the peppers kind of tucked in between the tomatoes, so that they get some shade. Peppers kind of like a little bit of shade during the hot summer months. What do we got over here? Let's see. I've got, it's kind of buried. The garden's getting a little crazy, a little overgrown. I've got a Tequila Sunrise pepper. I think I actually got 2 of these plants that I started from last year's seed. It's another really good pepper to grow and to cook with. Real pretty color on it. And then inside in here I have, this row is bell peppers. These are Ozark Giant bell peppers. This is another, some other seeds that I got from Baker Creek. Trying to get in here. They're not really that giant though. I was expecting them to be bigger. That's a nice big one. You can see, there you go. Nice looking bell pepper. I like to, you can either chop these up, or you can make stuffed peppers with them. Another dish we like to make. Doesn't look too hot, but yeah, they're doing pretty good. Completely loaded with peppers. We're gonna start eating these things. Some of this one's starting to rot. Uh-oh. I'm gonna start picking my bell peppers. I've been so busy lately working. Started my own business, so I haven't had much time to tend to the garden. But the garden's pretty much growing itself at this point. All right, so I'm gonna take you guys into this other section. My garden beds are kind of shaped like an E. So we'll take you into this little finger here. So right on this wall here, it's supposed to be tomato plants, and 2 of my tomatoes, they just did not make it for some reason. They weren't growing very good. So what happened is I actually trained one of the melon plants to grow over right where the tomatoes were, to fill in that space. And you can see I've got a nice juicy melon growing right there off the side of the raised bed. So I'll take you inside and show you. I've got 1 melon there. I literally have melons growing everywhere. This melon variety, I'm gonna have to get you to show you the seeds that I got from this. This is from my mother-in-law, April. Thanks again, April, for some beautiful seeds. Look at that nice melon. Another melon there. It's probably one of the most vigorous melon plants I've ever grown, or melon varieties. Last year's melons, they did not look like this. And look at, you can see another melon, another one there, another one there, another one there. Wow, there's just so many melons. I'm gonna have to count these and I'll let you guys know exactly how many are in there. And there's one down there. They're just completely loaded with melons. Right here I've got another pepper plant, another sweet banana pepper. We just harvested all the bananas. Here's a banana. You can see what they look like. You get these at Home Depot, or you can get them at Walmart. Pretty much anywhere. Right in here I had a patty pan squash, and it just, I don't know, it was a humongous plant. It took up this whole space and it just wasn't really producing anything, so I decided just to pull it out. This is the first year I tried growing patty pans, and they just kind of, if you don't pick them when they're small, they're like spongy inside. So we decided to pull them out and let my tomato grow, because this tomato was actually buried by the patty pan. I just didn't grow up quick enough. This is an Ace tomato variety. It's from Ace Harbor. So hopefully this thing will put out a few tomatoes. It might not, it might be too late in the season. There's another tomato there. This is a zucchini squash. And the zucchinis are kind of dying down on their production. For the last couple months, these things have been just spitting out zucchinis like crazy. We've had like, I don't know, probably, I would say we've probably got 300 pounds of zucchinis so far this year. Maybe even more. Yeah, I showed him, honey. Thing's huge, huh? It's pretty neat how we can grow all this food, huh? You can talk if you want. What else do we have? We got some onions. I've got red onions planted. They're just kind of on the surface.
I'm ready for my popsicle.
You want to eat a popsicle? Okay, let me go get Lily a popsicle. I'll get back to you guys in a second. Yeah, so we got a lot of red onions planted, and these are really tasty also. So, all right, so I'm gonna take you guys over to the other side of my front yard, and I actually just added this bed this year to grow squash in, because the squash kind of take up way too much space in the main gardening area. So I figured might as well just dig a little trench. So I actually dug this out. My native soil sucks here in my yard, so I dug out a 2 foot by whatever, how many foot long this is, bed, and I filled the whole thing with compost, and I mixed it with rock dust minerals and worm castings, insect frass, and then I planted out my squash, and these things have just been pumping them out. And there is actually one here. This is an Italian variety zucchini. This is actually from my seed stock from past seeds. And then I think the rest of my squash here, I've got Black Beauty zucchini, and patty pan growing, and then we also have a pumpkin growing. I'll go show you guys the pumpkin. Have you seen the pumpkin, Lily? No? Did you see it yet? Let's go check it out. You want to see it? Come over here, babe. Come on over here. Walk over here. Come this way. So yeah, you're gonna have a pumpkin to carve, Lily, from the garden this year.
What is it?
It's in here, right there. Look at. Let's move this wheelbarrow that we got for free. We were hanging out with Josh from Boogie Brew, and we were going on a little hike.
This thing?
No, not that. And this was sitting in front of someone's yard with a free sign, so we got a nice free wheelbarrow while we were hanging out with our buddy Josh. Let's see. So there it is. Can you guys see that on camera? Hopefully the sun isn't... It's right here, babe. Nice big pumpkin. Yep. And I didn't even plant the pumpkin. We actually, last year, we had some friends over, and they carved pumpkins here, and all the seeds ended up in my compost. And now I probably had like hundreds of pumpkin sprouts sprouting up everywhere that I pulled out, and that's one I didn't pull out, I guess. So and we got a nice pumpkin. I've got, so next to the pumpkin plant, at the end of this bed, I planted some sugar cane. Last season I had sugar cane planted right where the sunflowers were, and it was absolutely incredible, like how big the plants got. I actually started the sugar cane from cuttings that we got from our local farmers market. There's a guy that grows sugar cane in our area, in the Sacramento area, and took a couple pieces that weren't that tasty and sprouted them. And this is actually the very plant right here that was growing over there. The reason I pulled it out is because it was starting to kind of creep and take over the raised bed, and I didn't want to dedicate that whole bed to sugarcane, so I figured might as well, maybe I'll grow the sugarcane in pots. So I've got it right now, I've got it in a wine barrel growing, and you can see how the sugarcane grows. This is the main stalk from last year, and it has little eyes on it, or nodes, and the new plant will grow out of each one of these nodes. I actually have a video on how to start your very own sugarcane plant from cuttings, so you guys need to go check that out. I'll put a link down below in the description. You can check that video out. But I got one of my plants. This is a new cutting from this year that I planted in the ground. Hopefully it starts taking off soon, because I really enjoy some nice sugarcane juice. Here's some other sugarcane starts that I started myself here. But they're getting a little dried out because I haven't been able to water them as much as I'd like. And then over here, let's see what I've got here. This is an artichoke plant. Now you guys would be amazed at how many artichokes came off of this plant. And as you can see, this artichoke is planted in a Rubbermaid container that is basically falling apart. I mean, this thing was like a tree. Let me look at the size of this root ball here. And it probably, I mean, it took up a gigantic space. I'm gonna put a picture on the screen to show you guys how big this thing was. Maybe I'll flash a little video to show you. Now this thing put out 45 artichokes this year. And the most amazing, they had the most amazing flavor and taste. There's nothing like homegrown artichokes. The store-bought ones just suck. So definitely grow some artichokes in your garden. They are amazing. And then right here, I've got my little fig tree that it actually got shocked this year, because this fig tree, I actually had it growing in this barrel. It's been in this barrel for 3 years. This is my son Blake's fig tree. He planted this when he was born from a little tiny cutting from his great-grandfather's tree. It's probably about the size of my pinky finger when we started it 3 years ago. And not even 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. So it's getting pretty big. This is actually the second crop of figs. We've already had one crop, and this is the second crop. But yeah, this thing was against my fence, and I didn't move it for a couple years, and I needed to move this fence actually open, so yeah, I needed to get this fig tree out of the way, and I pulled it out with the truck, and guess what? The roots were growing in the ground. See the roots coming out the bottom? They came out the bottom and they're in the ground, and this thing totally got like shocked, and the leaves, a lot of the leaves fell off and wilted up. So it's finally coming back, and yeah, we still got some good figs on it. The birds are starting to get. That's the only problem with the fig tree. The birds like to, as soon as they start to ripen, the birds come in and take their share of the figs, unfortunately. But yeah, I plan on building an even better movable raised box for this fig plant out of some steel tubing that I have. I'm a certified welder, if you're wondering. So yeah, I'm gonna make a nice big steel box that I can move, because this fence will actually, one day is gonna actually open. I haven't quite finished it yet. It's in the process of being built. It's just a temporary fence now, but this will open one day. I don't have, might have some movable raised beds here, maybe in the future. Not sure, depending on how long we're gonna live here. So, yeah, that's my little side yard here. There's always space to grow food, no matter what you have. If you live in an apartment or you're renting, you can always grow plants in pots or barrels. Rubbermaid containers, or I mean, look at, I've just proven it to you guys. Artichokes, you can grow artichokes at your house in Rubbermaid bins. So, and you know what? It doesn't take a lot of money too to have a garden like this. The main cost of this garden was setting up the irrigation system. You know, and that took, you know, I'd say a couple years to dial that in. At first I was watering by hand, which got old quick, and ended up putting in drip tubing, and I'll give you guys a tour of that later in the video. But I'm gonna take you guys up past this first raised bed and show you some other plants. But oh yeah, before I do that, I want to show you guys this experiment that I'm doing this season. You're probably wondering, what are these two boxes here in your front yard? Well, these are potato boxes, and there's a post online that you can find. It's called How to Grow 100 Pounds Potatoes in 4 Square Feet. And I decided to do an experiment and see if this is actually possible. So I've actually started filming. I just posted my first video on the subject, and you guys are gonna have to go check that out to see what happens. But basically, you plant your potatoes, and once they grow past the first row of boards, these are fence boards that I got for free from my neighbor. So once they grow past the first row of boards, you bury the plant, the stalks, and add another row. You gotta leave some of the plant above the soil, and you keep doing that until you get to the top. Right, Lily? Yeah? And then once they get to the top, you can take off the bottom boards and dig in there and pull out potatoes.
Dada?
Yes, honey. What is it? What, honey?
Pascal.
A popsicle? You've had 2 popsicles already. You're a popsicle monster, huh? How about you go eat some tomatoes? That's much better than popsicles, even though the ones we have are homemade from whole fruit, but still. Okay, well maybe later if you're really good. So definitely go check out my video on how to grow 100 pounds of potatoes in 4 square foot box, because I'm pretty excited to see what happens, and hopefully it works out. We'll find out, I guess. Okay, so it's getting a little sunny here in my yard. We'll go in the shade here. There we go. Alright, so right here on my house, I've got, this is a grape plant growing. Hopefully next season I get to build it, but I'm going to build a little overhang here on the front of my garage so that I can have grapes crawling up there. It'll create like a little bit of shade too for me while I'm working in the garage. This plant here was actually started from a cutting that I got from my my wife's grandfather. And this is the variety is a red flame, and I actually do have a video on how to start these grapes from cuttings, so definitely go check that out when I post it. I haven't posted it yet, so it's really easy to start your own grape cuttings. All right, let's see here. You can see it. So this is, hopefully you can see it on the camera. The sun's pretty bright right now. I see that umbrella here? Thank you. You're a good helper, Lily. All right, so this is a raised bed that I started probably, let's see, 3.5 years ago, 4 years. Time flies by, you forget how many years it's been. So this is my original raised bed that I started. It's made out of just some pressure treated 2x12 lumber that I got for free from my neighbor. That house right there in the camera. That's where I got the wood. And yeah, it's been a good little raised bed. So I had this bed originally, and then next to it, this actually wasn't a garden. There was a giant tree here, and it was just kind of shading out the garden, so I decided to cut that tree down, and then eventually I added this bed a year later, and it's been wonderful growing my own food here at the house. So I'll give you guys a little tour of what's growing in here. I've got more beans. These are yellow-eyed bush beans. They're not really doing that good. As you can see, I'm not going to be growing this variety again. There's some more seeds I got from my mother-in-law. Thank you for the seeds, but they're not doing that good.
Can I please have a cup of ice?
A cup of ice? Yes, you can. Do you know where the ice is?
Yeah.
I'll help you get it in a second, okay? Got some more banana peppers, some sweet bananas. I've got some, this is a patty pan squash. I don't even know if it has any patty pans on it. There's one right back there is a little patty pan. I'm not going to be growing patty pans again. They just don't grow that well. I've got leeks growing down below, right there. What else do I have? I've actually got potatoes growing. Look at that. I didn't plant these potatoes. I planted potatoes in here about three years ago, and I just keep getting volunteers coming up. You can never dig them all out of the ground. There's always something left in there, and they always will grow back. So you're always gonna have food in the ground, no matter what. So if all the grocery stores closed and you couldn't go to the store and buy food, we could survive here probably for quite a while, digging up potatoes out of the ground and tomatoes and whatnot. So against the wire fencing that I made is Native American runner beans. This year they really haven't done that well. Plants are kind of like, they're not really that thick looking. Last year they were completely covered this fence, and they were nice and lush and green. This year they're kind of like, yeah, they're just not doing that good. And I think some of the plants didn't even make it. So right here in the middle of this raised bed, I have an early grill tomato. This tomato is one of the, seriously one of the best producing tomatoes that we have. It produces them early, hence the name. And probably, I'd say that tomato is about 8 feet tall right there. I used some of that wire fencing material. I just bend it around in a hoop shape, like a cylindrical shape, and you can make your very own tomato cage that'll support a tomato that size. Yeah, this thing just keeps putting them out, and they're really delicious tomatoes. Definitely plant some early grills if you want good results. Got some more zucchini growing in here. Next year, this whole bed is going to probably be peppers. It's going to be peppers growing here, and then above the bed, what I'm going to do for shade is, I just built this last week. I'm going to show you guys. I built this arch. Check it out. It's pretty cool. So this arch is made out of the same wire material on top, as you can see, and it's just zip tied onto some PVC pipe. that I got from Home Depot. I think it cost about 30 bucks worth of PVC pipe, and I already had the tees here at the house. So the PVC pipes and the tees, and all I did was glued these in, laid it on the roof on that side, and glued this section here on the other side. I made another one of those, and just pulled it until it bent it and slid into the gutter. It's actually sitting in the gutter, and then I reinforced the gutter with like a bunch of screws. And this thing will actually, I pulled on it when I was up there on the ladder, and it pretty much supported my entire body weight. So I'm like 200 pounds. So it's pretty amazing, you know, when you bend materials into an arch shape, how much weight they can support. So I'm gonna have this plant here growing up over this. So I'd say within a month or two, this thing is going to be completely covered in the Kagutsa squash. This is actually a gourd, not a regular squash. Yeah, this is in the gourd family, and this one's getting kind of big. I'm actually going to pick this one today. I left it so I can show you guys in the video what they look like. These things get massive. I've got one from last year. I'll have to show you guys what it looks like. So yeah, these are just growing right up against the house. Another one of my favorite materials, this remesh material you can get at Home Depot. I used to have artichokes growing in here, and I decided to pull them out and just grow them in barrels this year because they just do so well. I do have them in some small pots here, but these are going to get transplanted in some bigger pots. In between the Kagutsa plant, I have it's red Malabar spinach growing. Hard to see with the sun. There you go. Stuff likes to vine up, crawl. You know, it's crawling all the way up, and these things will put out little berries, and you can see them. They turn they have a real nice purple pigment to them. It's supposed to be really good for you, that purple pigment. So, but yeah, they're pretty mild flavored. They're kind of like gelatinous. Like the leaves are full of like moisture, if that's the word you want to use. I'm gonna try one. Pretty good. And I didn't have to plant those are volunteer. The seeds just fell on the ground and sprouted up. So next I'll take you guys into my composting area and into my entryway to my house. Above my little entryway gate, I built a nice little, what do you want to call that? Little trellis for the plants to grow over. And this is all made out of reclaimed redwood decking. And you can really make some beautiful stuff with free lumber. You don't have to spend any money if you don't want to. You just have to maybe spend a little bit more time finding the materials. And it adds a lot of character too. You can see all the nail holes and bolt holes in it. So I think it looks great. So let's head into my little front yard area, which I haven't been doing much with because I've been so busy. But this is my main composting pile. This is how I feed the garden, mostly with some nice compost that I make. This is all stuff that comes out of my yard. Basically, most of this comes out of the garden here when I have to actually prune a lot of the plants out of the walkways, and I actually do prune the tomatoes. I like to single stem the tomatoes, but I've just been so busy that I haven't been single stemming them anymore. They're just kind of growing wild right now, as you can see. But that material from the plants will end up in here. So last year's garden, the whole garden ended up in the compost pile, and it'll break down throughout the winter, and then that'll get reintroduced back into the garden to feed this year's plants. So it's pretty cool. So I've got this pile here, and I like to just put you know, weeds and leaves and stuff like that. I don't put a lot of food scraps in here because you'll get rodents. So the food scraps, they end up going in the Jor Form 270 composter here, and this is a really good composter to put your food scraps in because it'll break them down really quickly. Just give it, you know, a spin every once in a while. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the composter does need to be emptied, as you can see. It's not, the ratio is a little bit off. It might be a little ripe in there. But also got this Suncast composter, which I'm not using. It doesn't really work that good. So I stick to the Jora farm and my pile there. I also use this hay. I got this hay bale for like free, basically. I'll use that for ground cover or mulch, or I'll even throw that in the compost pile also. So let's see, what else do we have here in my front area? I've got another raised bed here. This is the kids' raised bed. I built this for Lily and Blake. This is actually made out of the reclaimed redwood decking and my neighbor's fence right next door to me that I got for free. They're basically tearing it down, and I asked the contractor if I could have all the oh my goodness, you're a plant monster. Is it good? That tastes good after eating a sweet popsicle? You like eating basil? Yeah? I'm glad you like eating basil, honey. So yeah, we planted, what did we plant? We got some more grapes in here that I started from cuttings. These ones look a little healthier than the one in front for some reason. And we did plant carrots in this raised bed, and for some reason, I think it's because of the cats. We have 2 kittens here, and the kittens kind of got in here and
Can I show Pepper and Pumpkin?
started up. Yes, you can, honey. So let's, you want to show them our other family members here?
This is Pumpkin and this is Pepper.
This is Pumpkin. Hi, Pumpkin. These are our rat traps right here. And he's the expert rat trap. He's already got one mouse. I think he caught a mouse this year, not a rat. He hasn't caught a rat yet. They're still pretty little. Yeah, hopefully they're a good deterrent for the rodents. Keep the rodent population down here.
What if a rattlesnake was here and bit our cat?
Oh, that would not be good. We wouldn't want that. Well, we don't.
It's a good thing you saw a snake, not us.
It's a good thing I saw a snake. Yeah, I saw a snake right down the street from our house, but it wasn't a rattlesnake. It was just a garter snake, which actually the garter snake is good for the garden.
Why?
Why? Because they eat rats. That's what they eat. They eat rats and mice. So yeah, we got. We'll get back to the raised bed here. I've got the. I do have some.
The cat was hiding from the snake because the cat didn't want to get bit by the snake.
No, the cat probably would have got the snake and killed it, unfortunately, but.
Cats are not.
Yeah, cats eat meat. That's right. Okay, so I'm gonna tell everybody about our raised bed here still. So yeah, we've got the basil plant that you've seen earlier, and we do have some carrots growing. Not a lot. We did plant a lot in here, but this is all that germinated. So we'll have a few carrots, I guess. We just planted some parsley seeds. I don't know if they're gonna make it in time, but we'll see what happens in here. And then here, let's show everybody our irrigation system. So I'm going to take you guys in the corner of my house here, and I'll show you how my irrigation is set up in the garden. Alright, so this season I redid all my irrigation. There used to be a sprinkler valve here that was here when we bought the house, and I ended up taking that out and rerunning everything. So here is what I have going on. So here's my main water line. So I got a branch that comes off of it with a ball valve, so I can turn off the irrigation system if I need to work on it. That goes underground, goes into a T, which splits it into 2 valves that are on timers, and each one of these valves goes to a Boogie Blue Plus chlorine water filter. And I set this up so that it'd be easy. These water filters are easy to remove.
More ice, Dad.
Okay, you can wait a minute, honey. So basically, you just unscrew this here, like so, and then you can slide this filter down using a slip coupling. Now if you guys want to see how to make this, I do have a video on how I build this setup. So definitely go and check that out. But it makes it super simple, super easy. So change out your water filters when they get clogged up. I'll put that back so I don't have any leaks. So these go out to my garden beds. I've got it on 2 different systems. I think one of these goes to the bed closest to the street, and then the other one goes out to this bed, and it actually goes under the sidewalk, under this walkway here, and under the driveway, and out over to that raised bed there. So I also have a video on that if you want to check out how to run irrigation pipes under walkways. Definitely go check that out because it's a good skill to learn and to have. And then also we've got a hose set up here that I put in with the, it's got another Boogie Blue Plus water filter. It just goes right to the garden hose. The reason for using the chlorine water filter is I like to use compost tea. And when you make compost tea, you're brewing up you know, microbiology in the tea. And you know, what is chlorine for? It's to kill, you know, microbes basically. So you want to definitely take out the chlorine if you're brewing some compost tea for your garden. You don't want to be spraying chlorine all over your soil, killing those beneficial microbes. Alright, so I think that is all for the front yard garden tour. Oh, I do have right here, I forgot to tell you guys, this is camphor that I have growing here. This is kind of like a plant fertilizer basically, or plant manure if you want to call it. This thing shoots, these plants will shoot down a big tap root in the ground, so if you have really crummy soil on top, it'll shoot down really deep and mine up a lot of minerals and bring them into the leaves. And what you can do is you can chop those leaves off, chop them and drop them. Say you have like a lot of fruit trees with some shallow root systems, you can plant these around your fruit trees, the bases of the fruit trees, and then just periodically go by and just chop them down, and it basically will build up the soil over time through doing that. I recently just chopped these down and threw them in the compost. They're actually really good to use as a compost starter, get the pile going. So, but they will take over a raised bed, so you definitely be careful where you plant them. They've kind of just been staying in this one spot here. And these are cool too, you can start these from root cuttings also. Nice kitties. You better get to work catching all those mice and rats in my yard. Okay, Lily, should we head to the backyard and show them what we have growing back there? We don't have much growing, but we can give them a little backyard tour. What do you think, honey? Lily, should we go in the backyard?
I want more ice.
Okay, that's all you have, a one-track mind. Ice and popsicles all day long. Okay, let's go get some. We'll head to the backyard. Alright, so we're in my backyard, and I really don't have much growing back here this year. This backyard is basically just for the kids to play in. If we didn't have kids, the backyard would probably be a jungle also. I'd probably have the whole yard would be a garden, but since we have the kids, they need a place to play. So I do have a nice apple tree that usually every year it produces some beautiful apples for us. And this year it had some nice apples, but what happened is this year it actually got, for some reason, it got some worms, and these little worms burrowed into pretty much every apple on the tree and basically ruined the apples. We did get a few though, but the worms did a lot of damage. It's because I was so busy this year starting my own business. I just didn't have time to deal with it. But this is Lily's apple tree. It's a 5 variety apple, and we like to make kids just like to eat them straight, right? You just like to eat apples right off the tree. And then what else do we use those apples for, Lily? Something really delicious we make for birthdays.
apple pie.
We make apple pie with them. That's right. They're so good. And the apple tree is actually planted in another raised container that I made from free wood from the neighbor's fence. And it's built in kind of a cool shape for the patio. And it's holding up pretty well. And then below the apple tree, this is something I didn't plant. It's got purslane growing. And this stuff is actually super nutritious for you to eat. And easy to grow because guess what? It's a weed. So we actually haven't been eating it, but you can eat it if you like it. Acts as a good ground cover to keep the apple tree moist. So what else do we have? We have a nice rose bush growing.
Dada.
Yes?
Is some of this sour grass?
No, this is called purslane, honey. You can eat it if you want.
What does it taste like?
It doesn't taste bad. Tastes good? Yeah, it's not bad. It's good. So let's see. We'll head over to our little herb raised bed. And I really have neglected this year. This is the one thing I didn't even touch this year. Haven't done anything to this. We've got our mint growing in it. The kids love to come over and it smells good. They love to come over and eat mint when we're hanging out in our hot tub, which is hasn't been getting used much because it's summertime. They like to pick mint and eat it while they're playing in the hot tub. Got some sweet marjoram growing here. It smells really delicious. Also got some stevia growing. I planted the stevia last year and it came back again. Tastes like sugar. Real sweet tasting leaf. I did have a sage plant growing here, and I think it's toast this year. It's completely dead. I'm gonna have to replant, put another sage, because I use the sage in gravies during Thanksgiving. I like to make a lot of mashed potatoes and gravy, and that's what we use the sage for. And then next to the sage, I have some thyme. And thyme is, oh man, it smells so good. I love the smell of thyme, and it's really tasty on potatoes and any kind of dish you want, pretty much. So that's our backyard. There's not much growing. Oh, we do have another fig tree that I planted, and I know the fig tree is going to get huge, but I'm going to try to prune it in a way so that it stays small. And yeah, because I love eating figs, so I'd rather get a few figs and lose a little bit of space. But yeah, this is a cutting off of the fig tree in the front yard, and it's looking pretty healthy. Next year it's probably going to be insane, so stay tuned for next year's garden. It's going to probably be like as tall as me. I've got my helper Lily here, and we're going to talk a little bit about why I started the garden. So the main reason for starting this vegetable garden was for health. 6 years ago, if you were to see me, you wouldn't recognize me because I weighed, I would say, yeah, I was definitely 300 plus pounds back then. I wasn't always 300 pounds. When I graduated high school, I weighed 185 pounds, super healthy guy. And, you know, by the time I was 26, I basically packed on all those pounds, eating, you know, the standard American diet, fast food, lots of, you know, going to high-end restaurants, eating the most delicious, tasty, like fatty meals you can get, and basically turned me into a lazy couch potato. And then, you know, I got to the point where I was so miserable that I knew I needed to change, and so, you know, I started juicing, eating a lot of, you know, fruit smoothies, fruit and veggie smoothies, and the produce at the store was getting quite expensive, so I decided to put in a small raised bed in the backyard. That was our original raised bed, right where our hot tub is now, and we grow our own kale and tomatoes there, and then you know, the next year I'm like, oh, we gotta add on to this, so I added the raised bed by the front entryway, and then 2 years ago I added the bed that we're sitting in today. We didn't actually have the wood at the time. I actually just piled up mounds of dirt and grew in that. And at the end of this video I'll show some photos of that garden that we had back then. And then last year I put in the raised boxes that you see here, and then this year I added the garden bed next to the driveway over there. So it just keeps evolving every year and getting bigger and bigger. I'm pretty much out of space right here on this property, but in the future we hope to have like, you know, maybe 5 acres hopefully, or maybe 10, I don't know. Would you like to have 5 acres, Lily?
Yeah.
Like in the country? Maybe a farm? I don't know. People tell these, we need to get
in a farm, I want a cow, a horse, and a bunny.
a cow, a horse, and a bunny, huh? How about maybe some chickens?
Chickens too.
As pets. We're not gonna eat them. We're not gonna eat the eggs either.
No.
Because that's what made me fat, all those eggs. So that sounds like a good plan, Lily. And yeah, so that's the main reason for starting the garden, is for health. Another reason I like having the garden is I like the kids to be around, you know, to come out, be able to come out and forage for their own food. They like to come out and eat tomatoes. Lily's favorite tomato is probably the Sun Gold, right? The Sun Sweet and the grape tomatoes. They love to eat mint and basil right off the plant. And yeah, so the kids enjoy it. It's good. I think it's good for them to learn how to grow their own food. And then another reason I love having the garden is it's just a fun hobby to have. It's fun to come out here and work in it and see, you know, see the plants grow. So that's pretty much it. That's why we started the garden. And also, I just love to build things. I think I am a chronic builder. I actually have my own business. It's called The Ultimate Handyman. I'll put a link down below. You guys can check out my website and see some of my projects that I built. Yeah, I just love building things. Ever since I was a kid, I love to make things. Go-karts and mini bikes and mini choppers, pretty much anything you can think of. So I also love building my garden, as you can see. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed our 2017 vegetable garden tour. If you guys like this video, please give us a thumbs up, and definitely subscribe to see more gardening tips and tricks from us here at Growing Up Garden. And I want to thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys next time.
See you later. Bye.
Getting there. Oh, I forgot to record the tree coming down, but it came down. No more tree. There it is.